Our guest today is Secretary of Transportation for the state of Illinois. He has served in this position for nearly 2 years. Our guest today leads 10 offices that serve the transportation needs of Illinois across multiple modes, rural, suburban, and urban environments. He oversees a $2.8 billion operating budget that supports a workforce of 5,000 employees, and he has oversight of more than $3.2 billion in capital projects. He earned his bachelor's degree in business administration from Illinois State University. But perhaps not known to everyone is he grew up in McHenry, Illinois, which is ironically where I am from. And he reminded me that his mother and my sainted mother played bridge together. Ladies and gentlemen, Randall Blankenhorn. Mr. Secretary.
Thanks, Ed and Jay. I appreciate that introduction, and it is always a pleasure to be back at the City Club. I'm glad that Ed said to turn off your phones because Beth reminded me that if not, all of you would be doing your Cyber Monday shopping. So thank you for not doing that while I'm talking. It's been just over a year since I've been here, last time we talked a lot about what I think is a transportation transformation that we are truly in the midst of. We talked about changes in technology, how we need to rethink project development and project delivery. We need to think about new funding opportunities and the inefficiencies that we have inside the department and how to make things work better. A lot has happened in the last year. First of all, the Cubs won a World Series. As a lifelong Cubs fan, I can tell you if that can happen, anything can happen here in Illinois. And so we're looking forward to what the future brings. We also have a budget in place at IDOT that takes us through the entire fiscal year, one of only a handful of state agencies that have that, and it underscores Governor Rauner's commitment to transportation. We also, since the last time I was here, have a multi-year federal transportation bill, the first in a decade. And we have a new president-elect who talks about significant investments in transportation and other infrastructure, and we'll have to wait and see how all that plays out. But on behalf of Governor Rauner and the entire team at the Illinois Department of Transportation, thanks for having me today. Despite the ongoing chaos in Springfield, good things are happening at the department under the leadership of Governor Rauner, and I'd like to spend the next few minutes talking about some of those issues and some of the challenges that we still face. Let's start with project delivery and project development. We always say that transportation investment is about how we drive economies and how we strengthen communities. And yet we don't do a good job of measuring that when we make those investments. We're good at measuring bridge condition and road condition, safety and traffic, but the public wants more than that from their transportation investments. Through a grant that we got from the Chicago Community Trust, which I think is maybe one of the first philanthropic grants to a state agency to help with their operations, we're working with Transportation for America to create true measures that we can use to prioritize projects based on economic development, economic opportunity, and the way we can strengthen communities. We've learned a lot about what other states are doing, who've dipped their toes in the water already in this issues, and we plan to start this year with thinking about how we can use true measures that can measure what does it mean to our transportation system when we make investments. How do we think about transportation investments in a new and different way? And we're going to start by focusing on our capital programs and particularly on those new capacity programs and projects. We aren't waiting for a perfect system. I have found since I've been back to government that too often we wait for perfect at the expense of good, that we need to try things, we need to see what works and what doesn't work, and we're going to put this out and try it. And we're going to find things that work well, and we're going to find things that don't work so well, and we're going to figure it out and rethink what we're doing. We're also getting serious about life cycle costs, something I've talked to many of you about before. We need to utilize the work that we're doing on pavement and bridge management and get away from a worst first mentality. We need to think long-term about the assets that we own, and we need to think about how much it costs to own and not how much it costs to build and maintain. It's going to be a new way of thinking for us, a new way of prioritizing projects and figuring out how we get the best out of our system throughout its life, and not just thinking about what does it cost to replace. We're continue to work with local communities in rethinking their corridor improvements that are such a vital part of their economic development strategies. To be frank, we can't build 4-lane highways in every part of Illinois. It just isn't going to happen, and we need to figure out how to solve today's problems while continuing to look to the future. I've asked our staff to figure out how to get 50%, 80% of the existing value. What is the problem we're trying to solve, and how do we solve 80% of it at 50% of the cost? That doesn't mean asking communities to let go of their long-held dreams, but to rethink their needs, and maybe someday, when their member of Congress becomes Speaker of the House, that dream can happen. One of Governor Rauner's passions is truly getting rid of the red tape that it costs businesses to do business here in Illinois, and particularly with state government. When I walked into the Secretary's office in early 2015, agreements with our consulting engineers were taking 270 days to process, 9 months, a simply unacceptable and ridiculous amount of time to do what is a basic part of our job. In the last year, we've cut that in half to 135 days, and we'll get it down to the 90 days that I promised you when I got here. It will make that happen. But we're doing the same thing in so many of our other processes throughout the agency. So you're going to continue to see improvements in how we deal with you and how we deal with the public and how to see improvements in the services that we deliver. We've tasked each bureau and each district with identifying where can we be smarter, where can we do a better job of cutting red tape, and I've asked them to consider each step of those processes and ask themselves, are we adding any value? Does this step add value, and if not, why are we doing it? What do we need to do to make things work better? As I talk to our partners, particularly in the construction side of the business, I've heard results already. Talking to companies, and they say, we see a difference in the field where people are allowed to make decisions, where your staff is making decisions day to day and not waiting weeks for somebody to make a decision that's sitting in an office some 100 miles away. In the same vein, we strongly embraced our first reorganization of the agency in decades. We did it to break down silos, to improve communication, and to get the agency talking to each other. Our prime example when I got here of this was our real concerns that we weren't going to be able to deliver the Chicago to St. Louis high-speed rail project in time to meet the federal deadlines. We had expertise inside the department that could help our rail group with issues like land acquisition, like engineering, and yet we weren't communicating across those division lines. We brought together that expertise from the districts and our divisions, and I'm confident that we're going to deliver the high-speed rail project inside of our federal guidelines. And given that, we're poised to start delivering some real benefits of improved passenger rail service to the public. Not only reduced travel times, but as importantly, better reliability, making passenger rail a true option for people traveling in the I-55 corridor. A month ago, we opened a new station in Dwight, the first of several to come online in our Springfield-St. Louis corridor. We have new locomotives coming to the Midwest that will start to be online in 2017. And as a result of this, I think our downstate communities will begin to see real economic development potential, as well as the metro regions that frame the I-55 corridor. We not need to only invest wiser and cut red tape, but we need to deliver projects in more innovative ways. After years of conversation with many of you in the industry, we've come to agreement on legislation that will allow us to utilize design-build, contract manager, and alternative technical concepts to deliver projects faster and at lower costs, and I look forward to working with Senator Sandoval to get those through his committee and out of the General Assembly. While these delivery options aren't for every project, and in fact, they aren't for most, we need to have the ability to utilize them where they make sense. We also need to find new ways to leverage private investment in our system. We're creating a new Bureau of Innovative Project Delivery in the Office of Planning and Programming to analyze opportunities to bring in private sector dollars into transportation projects. We need to develop that expertise in-house and start to think about how we deliver projects at the beginning of the development process, not try to force-fit P3s into our existing projects. We have had some early successes with our managed lane projects on the Stevenson Expressway, and with the Humboldt Bridge project in Will County, but there's much more to do. On the Stevenson, we received federal environmental approval this summer to construct an additional tolled express lane in each direction between I-355 and the Dan Ryan Expressway. We're going to proceed with delivering this project as a public-private partnership as soon as we get the blessing of the Illinois General Assembly. This fall, we held a request for information workshop to solicit ideas from private industry on how best to deliver this project. Over 200 interested parties attended an open house, and 17 teams, including local contractors and consultants, as well as some of the biggest multinational firms in the world, met with us to discuss the project and their thoughts on how to best deliver it. I'm going to repeat that because it's important. 17 of the biggest firms in the world came to us to talk about how they could deliver a project here in Illinois that's ready to go, that's ready to happen, and ready to do in a new and different way. Once we have that extra capacity on I-55, we can begin to address congestion issues on other expressways, starting with the Eisenhower. I believe the I-55 Managed Lanes project can be a model that we can use elsewhere when conditions are right. Under direction of Governor Rauner, this summer we reached a first-of-its-kind agreement between local and state government and the private sector to build a new Humboldt Road bridge, a vital improvement necessary to keep up with our booming logistics industry. CenterPoint will build a bridge from I-80 into their intermodal facilities, home to thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in freight activity annually. To leverage that, IDOT is going to build an improved connection from I-80 into the bridge. With Joliet as the lead agency, another partnership that we're using to make this job go faster, to make it go smoother, to make things happen quickly, we anticipate utilizing a diverging diamond interchange, like the one that's working so well at I-88 and Illinois 59, to more safely move traffic, particularly trucks, into and out of CenterPoint. At a total cost of about $200 million, the public is getting a 10-to-1 return on its investment on this project. That's truly a win for everyone, and I believe we need to keep this template alive as we look at how we're going to address economic development opportunities on a targeted strategic basis across the state. Innovative projects like these, I hope, are sending a message that it's no longer business as usual at IDOT. We're seeing other examples of funding packages that rethink the role of state and local government in delivering projects. Counties and cities are wanting to partner with the state to deliver important state and local projects faster. Traditional funding splits need to be thrown out, and more flexible funding combinations are going to be the future of how we get things done. We've seen this in our CREATE program, where we not only have the railroads coming to the table with significant funding, but Cook County has used funding derived from eliminating diversions to fill a really important gap and move our most important CREATE project forward. The City of Chicago is providing the necessary project engineering. Metra and Amtrak are stepping up as significant financial partners in a way to bring a wide variety of resources to solve a real problem that impacts not only the City of Chicago and the state of Illinois, but the country as a whole. On the construction side, we have a lot of major projects that are either nearing completion or are well underway. I talked to some people today, significant work that's happening on the Dan Ryan flyover. The centerpiece of the Burn Interchange project is coming to a conclusion of this phase. We hope to be opening that in the next 2 weeks, and I hope to be going out and looking at it before it gets open to see really what an amazing job our partners have done in really tough circumstances to build a really important project. Our job at I-55 and Lakeshore Drive is on schedule as well, and with completion of these two projects, it will greatly improve access to the city from two of its most important gateways. Downstate, we completed the improvement of I-70 and I-57, one of the largest projects ever in Eastern Illinois, and it's going to create a tremendous access and better economic opportunities for all of Eastern Illinois. We're starting construction of the I-74 bridge in the Quad Cities, the most expensive bridge project downstate in our history. And we're working with the Department of Natural Resources to return Illinois' waterways planning and project development to IDOT. Thanks. I think I might have said we were trying to do that last year. We're well along the way, and I think it's really important. Our ports and our waterways truly are one of our most underutilized assets. We need to work with the owners of our ports to take advantage of the real economic engine that ports can be to our local communities. From using drones for bridge inspections, to deploying 3D technology for surveying, to rolling out e-construction, we are embracing technology much more than we ever have under Governor Rauner's leadership. I talked a lot last time about autonomous vehicles. I didn't know that a year from now we'd be talking about it in a completely different way. They're here to stay. It's not the Jetsons, it's not the future, it is today, and it's happening right now. At the government level, we still need to develop a framework to address what kind of infrastructure we're going to need and the basic rules and regulations that we need to have in place. And those rules and regulations don't mean prohibiting autonomous vehicles, as was proposed by some members of the Chicago City Council. I believe that one of the earliest opportunities for autonomous vehicles is in goods movement. We're working with companies that want to pilot technologies here in Illinois, and we have to be more welcoming to those efforts. We need to coordinate those efforts with the Illinois State Police, with the Secretary of State, with the Department of Insurance, and others to make sure that new technologies feel at home here in Illinois and give us an opportunity to return to a real center for transportation innovation. This is a prime area that we're going to spend a lot of time on next year. We need to bring these new economic opportunities to Illinois while making our roadways more safe. You know, there's been a lot of hand-wringing about one fatal accident from a self-driving vehicle in Florida. And every fatality is an important fatality. But you know, here in Illinois, this year, for the first time in almost a decade, we're going to have 1,000 traffic deaths in our streets. Clearly, distracted driving is a bigger problem than I think any of us have anticipated, and automated vehicles will help reduce that driver error that is the most deadly problem that we face on our roadways. When we look at the challenges that we face in the upcoming years, reducing traffic fatalities is probably at the top of our list. We need to work together. We need to find ways to eliminate this. We got to think truly about how do we get to zero. That has to be the goal. That has to be where we are looking as we look at making our roadways more safe. But there remain other challenges. We need to create more opportunities for DBE, veteran-owned, and other small businesses to be successful in our transportation field. Governor Rauner's continuously said that economic opportunity needs to be for all of Illinois, and we in this industry need to work together to broaden the pool of potential firms and then making sure that they get the work that they need in order to succeed. I'm finishing up the fourth tour that I've had in the 2 years of all of our district offices to hear what's working and what's not working. These are fascinating to me, and when I was here before, I talked about we had lost that innovative edge here at IDOT, and you know, I'm not sure that was true. Our team has great ideas, and that which I thought I was lost, I think we just weren't seeing what was happening on a day-to-day basis. Our team knows how to do things better, they know how to do things right, and we need to give them the resources in order to make that happen. But so often that the things that they need to do their job better, better technology, better equipment, more vehicles, have to be purchased. Our current procurement system prohibits us from giving our team what it needs in anything close to a timely manner. Procurement delivery has to be a priority for the state of Illinois if it's going to be an efficient deliverer of services. But as you know, our procurement problems aren't just about what we purchase. Since I got here, I've told you that we need to change SB 51 in ways that allow us to have meaningful conversations with you about the innovations that you can bring to the table that don't punish you when it comes to procurement time. What we have today is a system that makes no sense, and I'm going to continue to work with you to make that happen and make it happen sooner rather than later. And while funding issues for roads and bridges are coming along, we really don't have a funding system for transit, for rail, and for airports. Episodic bonding programs aren't the answer for what has become increasingly vital elements of our transportation system. We can't continue to have our transportation modes fighting against other general revenue needs in order to maintain and improve those systems. We need to continue to work with our partners to find a sustainable funding source that provides long-term, reliable resources for transit, rail, airports, and other non-highway modes. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a multi-year federal funding program that allows us some confidence in the resources that we're going to receive over the next few years. We also have a successful Lockbox Amendment that passed the public. I think what it shows generally to me is the public strongly believes in investing in transportation, but that the investments that they make in that system need to be used on that transportation system. With respect to the Lockbox, IDOT will be taking a broad view of what is transportation. It's going to include transit. It's going to include our planning activities. It's going to include pedestrian improvements and many, many other activities that go into running and delivering a true transportation system. In the bigger picture, how we view infrastructure as an asset to be supported and maintained is something that needs some urgency behind it. People are driving more than ever. Traffic volumes in the U.S. reached 1.58 trillion miles in the first 6 months of 2016, the highest number in our history. But the condition of our system is not keeping up. Presently, 79% of our highways, 92% of our bridges are in good condition. By 2022, those numbers shrink to 61% of our roadways and 86% of our bridges. The value of our highway, bridge, local roads, rail, transit, and airs is well over $100 billion. If transportation is one of Illinois' most important assets, it needs to be maintained and it needs to be improved if we're going to grow our economy. With his business background, Governor Rounders understands this as well. We need to get Illinois back on track by creating jobs and creating lasting economic growth. Investing in a transportation system enables that growth, and it's one issue where there is relatively little disagreement. Illinois is the center of the transportation system of North America, and it drives the economies not only of Chicago and Illinois, but of all the Midwest. I was talking to my brother-in-law over the holiday weekend about my nephews who are pretty good baseball players. And he went to a coaching seminar, and the speaker said that while everybody wants to, and everybody probably should, work on their weaknesses, what brings success is enhancing your strengths. He said if you're a singles hitter, find better ways to get on base. If you're a power hitter, focus on driving the ball. In Illinois, our strength is infrastructure. Together, let's focus our efforts on our strength and improve what drives Illinois' economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we're open for some questions and answers. And water, very important. Thank you, Jack.
Just so you all know, I said you could ask questions. I didn't say I would answer them.
Well, the first question is from the mayor. Mayor of Franklin Park, Barrett Pedersen, who's a member of the City Club. How is the discussion on a transportation and infrastructure funding mechanism? And then he ended it. Progressing. You left that word off. Okay.
You know, it wasn't that I didn't anticipate this question. I'm just not sure I have the greatest answer for it. It is, we all know that we have a real need, that we're facing a cliff in our transportation infrastructure that's coming very soon. You've heard Governor Rauner say again and again and again that there's two things that drive the economy. That's building better infrastructure and building a better education system. I think that we're there. I mean, we are there in discussions with our friends in the General Assembly, with our friends in the administration about what this means, but let's be frank, we have to solve the operating problem of Illinois before we can start talking about transportation and other capital needs. We've got to get this fixed, and if we do, I think the conversation pivots to what we need to do short and long term about investing in our infrastructure.
Thank you. This is from John P. O'Neill, who's with Michael Baker International, member of the City Club. John, where are you? Right over here. Oh, the question.
So John wanted to know how my Thanksgiving
exactly.
was.
He wanted to talk about your brother-in-law and his, okay.
He wants to recruit the nephew.
John's question, do you expect to expand the successful I-55 bus on shoulder program to other parts of your system?
Yeah, you know, the I-55 bus on shoulders has been a success almost any way that you look at it. From a ridership perspective, it's huge. From a customer appreciation part of it, they feel that they're getting value for their money, and we are. Our friends at the tollway are looking at how we do it on I-90 when we reopen the Jane Addams here in the next few weeks. They've already planned for it in the right-of-way, and I think that's a good step. We're looking at it on the Edens. I think we have to look at it in a number of places where we have enough right-of-way to make a difference. It not only helps traffic congestion, but truly gives people an option to get to work and home from work in a different way. And the truth is, we have to have successful bus and rail systems in order to make this city work. So I think that there are more opportunities. I think that we won't be afraid of them, like maybe we were when we started I-55. We know how well it works, and I think it's just the beginning.
Thank you. Next question. This is from Ben Brockschmidt with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. Ben, you're not a member of the City Club. For $50, this could be the best investment you will ever make, and it's tax deductible. Is that you, Ben? Yeah, it's the second time I've been called out, but it's online. Okay. Randy, here's Ben's question. Very simple one. What do you need from us?
You know, and that's a question that I talk to you all about all the time, and I probably got it 4 times before lunch today. You know, we need to talk about why transportation investment matters. I think I told you the last time I was here that we'd just gotten off a 42-city tour in 28 days to talk about transportation and what it means. And we heard, and I got done, and people said, so what did you learn that you didn't know before? I said, I'm not sure I learned anything that I didn't know, but I think the way people talked about it matters. The stories matter. Why transportation investment makes sense to families, to communities, to jobs is really important. And I'll give you the 2 examples that I love to use. When I was in downstate Illinois, we had a big distributing firm that said, Randy, your expressways are my warehouses. And if you don't do a better job of moving traffic, I'll go somewhere else. That's reality. That's the system that we're living in, and we've got to do a better job. We were up in the northwest suburbs, and an elementary school teacher said, my preschool 4-year-olds are on a bus to school and back for an hour every day. That's a system that isn't failure. We've got to find those stories, and we've got to tell our leaders across this state and across this country why it makes a difference, why it makes a difference on a personal level. You and I talk about expanding a road, extending a transit line. That's not what matters to day-to-day people. What matters to them is how does it affect my life? How does it increase my opportunities to get a better job? Why do I have to leave at 3:30 for my daughter's 5:30 soccer game? Those are the things that matter to people, and we all have to start telling those stories and making it real, or we'll never be able to push this forward.
Very good. Thank you. This is from Harvind Singh. Harvind, where are you? Back towards the upper deck up there. Great. In the Bob Euchre seats. Terrific. Harvind's question is privatization of public infrastructure the future? How will this benefit citizens in the long term?
Yeah, I don't think we're talking complete privatization of a system. I don't think that makes any sense. Government has a role in infrastructure, and particularly in transportation delivery, and we have a responsibility to the public to make sure that it works. Having said that, I think we have to find more ways to leverage private investment. The Hobolt Road Bridge is such a great example. We're going to spend $20 million of public money and get a $200 million bridge. Where's the downside in that? We've got to look for those opportunities, and I do think it's the future, but we're not going to privatize maintenance of our system. How does that work? We've got to think about opportunities and where it works and where it doesn't. It's going to be more than we have today, but I think privatization of the system is not really what we need. Complete privatization of the system isn't what we need, and I don't think it serves the public in the best way.
Next question. Jay Boratin. Jay, where are you? Over there. From the World on Fire Films. In 2009, traffic fatalities on Illinois roads dropped below 1,000 for the first time since 1921. The Department of Traffic Safety was disbanded this year because of department reorganization. Now, Fatalities are on track to exceed 1,000. His question, what is IDOT doing to continue saving lives?
Yeah, from the organizational structure, it just made sense to us. Traffic safety was a standalone division that didn't communicate with the rest of the department in any meaningful way. We've got to get safety into everything we do. We've put pieces of it in program development. When we're thinking about projects, we need to think up front about what are the safety implications. What can we do there? We put the communications part with our outreach team. We've got to do a better job of reaching people and telling them that honestly, getting on the phone while you're driving isn't a good idea, that you need to wear safety belts, that you can't drink and drive. I tell people when I'm driving back and forth to Springfield, which is every week, I'll often see people on their phone, and I'll beep at them and go like this, and then they'll flip me off. You know, we have to get it in people's minds that these aren't statistics. These are people, these are sons, these are daughters, these are husbands, these are wives, and we've got to do more. The reorganization of traffic safety is meant to do that. This isn't an Illinois problem, it's national. We are seeing uptick significantly all across the country. I say it is predominantly a distracted driving issue. We have work zone issues that we're continuing to deal with, but we've got to get people to pay attention to what they're doing, and if we do, I think we'll see those fall. But we've got to reach people in new and different ways, and hopefully this restructuring will help us think about that.
Very good. By the way, when you get flipped off, are you in that official state vehicle?
I do have the U plates on, so.
Yeah, people just don't pay attention, do they? Okay, this is from President Doherty's sometime client, so we better ask this question. It's from Marty Sandoval, who's chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee. What can and how can the General Assembly do to help implement the benefits of the Lockbox Amendment?
Yeah, you know, the Lockbox Amendment is an interesting thing. It's a constitutional amendment, and constitutional amendments are designed to take lawmaking away from the legislature. That's what they're supposed to do. There's been a lot of talk on should we do trailer legislation to identify what we meant. And I think that can be helpful. Ultimately, to be frank, this will be decided in courts. That's how they get decided. I think what we want to do as an agency, what we want to do with our partners in the General Assembly, is talk about what do we think we meant here, what is it that the public said that they wanted, and how do we implement that in a way that makes court challenges not happen. I think that we have to worry about it at the state level. Our local governments have to worry about it as well. I mean, this applies to them and how they deal with some of the transportation revenues that have been coming into their coffers and how they assign transportation expenditures to that. I praise President Preckwinkle and the Cook County Board for taking that first action before there ever was a lockbox to say that transportation investment should be spent on transportation. That's the bottom line. People decided, and people have always said to me, I don't mind paying more for transportation. I don't mind paying more for infrastructure, but I want it to go to what I said I wanted it to go for. And I think that's what this lockbox does. You know, Senator, I think we have some work to do together to figure this out. I'm not certain that whatever we do in the General Assembly doesn't mean we're going to be in court someday anyway.
Okay. And this is from Ron Burke, who's with the Active Transportation Alliance. Delivering people to work with one person per 3,000-pound car, love this analogy, is like Budweiser delivering beer, 1 6-pack at a time. How do we move people more efficiently, especially during the rush hour?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see drones delivering Budweiser 1 6-pack at a time pretty soon. But, you know, Ron, that's the question that we face and continue to face for years and years and years. How do we make better use of the system? How do we give people true options? And that's what it's about. It's about giving people options on how they travel. I live here in Chicago. I don't have a car here. My car's in Springfield where you have to have one. And I walk, I take the bus, I take the train. I have options to get to where I need to go. We need to provide those options much more fully across this city and across the state. People will make good decisions based on what's best for them, but when they don't have options, they get in a car. I used to say that you know, transit and other non-motorized travel ought to be the first choice, not the last choice. And it doesn't mean that you take that, but it means it's an actual choice. So we need to provide those options. We opened our first protected bike lane here in the city last winter, about a year ago now. Our team said, well, we'll study this for a while and figure out if it worked, and we said, absolutely not. Let's find the next location where it's going to work, where it's going to make bicycling more safe, where we're going to give people those options to get to work in a different way. So we have to provide, if we're going to grow as a community, if we're going to grow as a state, we can't absorb all that much more automobile traffic. We've got to find ways for people to get around in different ways, and I think that's what we're focused on.
Thank you. And I think we have time for one last question, and this comes from the chairman himself, Ed Mazer. You mentioned bikes and automobiles, and about a year ago, I was caught at about 6 o'clock on a Friday night at Grand in Milwaukee as this great bicycle parade went across, and no one could move for about 45 minutes. What can be done, in your opinion, to improve the relationship between bicyclists and four-wheel drivers?
Yeah, it's a common problem. It's not just a Chicago problem. Number one is we all have to respect each other in the way that we're moving. And number two is we have to obey the laws. Traffic laws aren't just for cars. They're for pedestrians, they're for bicyclists, they're for everybody. But we that drive cars tend to forget that they have as much right to be on the road as we do. And we've got to find ways to make it safer. I think, Ed, my concern is that we see more and more pedestrian fatalities every year, that we see more and more bicycle fatalities every year. We've got to be aware of each other, we've got to be aware of the space that we're sharing, and we've got to respect each other's right to be there.
Thank you. And our special friend Miles Berman wanted everybody to know, delivering six-pack at a time, we could bring Clydesdales back to Chicago. One step at a time. Just make sure they have extended size diapers, Mr. Berman. Okay, now we have our famous City Club drawing, and let's give Randy a round of applause.